want to share the inspiration that came through this morning from my dreams. I'm going to share my dream. I'm going to share everything, all the principles it shows about life, about this time, about ourselves, our abilities. Yeah, and I'm just going to roll. So, and I'm going to call in my highest self to guide me so that this may be the greatest, so I can may bring forth the greatest inspiration from this for the inner realms of light to come through into this world, to activate the parts of our DNA that is connected into these realms, that lives in these realms, for awakening, for ascension, for the purpose of unification, for the purpose of love and light inhabiting all the coming back into the dark, into the darkness, and re-inhabiting all spaces of all realms. And for us to come back into a joyful living and into our creative powers. Yes, okay. So I was in a space that was, it was Berlin, and it was like had that flavor, and it looked like the time of in that series Babylon Berlin. And so that is before World War II, I think. But you know, let's not get into that. It's just about, it has a different flavor. It was a different time, and I was this kind of a dream was where I was an observer, almost like this is a dream where my mind-body complex, you know, and my DNA it's showing me something. It's in order to become aware of something, and not just aware, but also in order to embody this and practice it. And I was like an observer within different bodies, so that it wasn't like me, even though I was experiencing it as me. And when sometimes I saw then myself, you know, from the outside, and then every once in a while from the outside, and then I was that person again. And it was one of the actresses from Babylon Berlin. And sometimes this is also a theme, is that actors actually take on, play, you know, I guess my mind uses these, you know, actors that have a certain, you know, they have a certain flavor. When I've watched them in a movie, they hold a certain sound symphony flavor, you know, and then that they are being used. So I was part of a very big family, and it was also Tartarian, so there was also Tartarian flavors in there, and that's of course that's before World War I. That's, well, I mean, Tartaria and those buildings are way older, but this Tartarian flavor that I speak of is from, it's like the time of the czars of Russia, and so before World War I, and this was a mixture of both of them. And what I was getting was, this is a particular time, you know, especially this time where, I mean, it didn't happen for no reason, and it didn't happen for the reason that we can read in the history books, why these two huge wars called the World War I and II happened. And so I was observing, and this was also a reflection, a conscious reflection in my mind when I was seeing it. I was getting that, and this is why, there was an observer role, and there was that space, and there was that much lucidity in the dream. Was that I could see, on the one hand, I could see how the families, and it was like they were having dinner around the table, the brothers, and there were many brothers and sisters, and how they had a beautiful bond together. They had a beautiful, playing the ball back and forth relationship, and it was. There was this bond of love. There was this bond of family, and it was like this golden light that was there, and it was juicy. That's the best way I can, or the word that comes now. It was really juicy. It was fun. It was a very good, warm, and very fun feeling. At the same time, it was already tainted. I already felt, and it was everywhere. This tainting was coming in. The darkness was coming in, so that at the flip of a switch that was sometimes very subtle, it could flip that from being, companions and bonded and together, that all of a sudden, you fight with each other, and the other person is like your enemy, and you work against each other. And that was already, all of that was there, and I was observing it. And then I found myself in the city. This is, huge city, Berlin, and I was wearing, and this is just an interesting little detail, or maybe I'm not going to go into it. Okay, I'll leave that detail out. Okay. Yeah, anyways, I was wearing like beautiful clothes that I would never wear in this life. And I was kind of like out there in the city, and I was like partying, but not in the sense of today, like dancing. First it was in our house. We had this big mansion. This family had this big, huge, beautiful Tartarian mansion with many rooms, and there were lots of people coming over. It was like a party. But there I also already saw the different rooms, what things were happening, where there was still this feeling that I don't know from our society today, but that I have a sense of, from actually the actual sense comes not just from movies, because movies, if there's nothing that resonates there, then you can't really get a sense of it. The sense comes from the resonance, and that resonates with your DNA. So, and it is in my DNA, So this hummingness, this still this more of a community feeling that is completely, it's not there. It's just not there anymore today, that I don't perceive it. And today everything is so much more separate and compartmentalized and divided, and that was still there. And yes, and at the same time, exactly, so within the families already, the fighting and the abuse and the sexual addiction also, it was creeping in. Of course, yes. With every war, it got worse, and then after the 2 wars, it was like, and there's a reason also that Germany was targeted so much, because there was so much light here. There was so much light here still, and that this particular piece of land, in the middle of Europe, has probably within history seen the most wars on its territory than any other culture, than any, the German speaking culture, these lands, yes. And there is also a reason for that. And it has to do with this golden light, and I can feel it right now. Yeah. Something, and it also, what reminds me of this is when I watched, has something to do with also Tartarian Empire, and those what was left. There was something that had rescued itself, something that was still lightful, yes, through all the hardship. Yeah. And yeah, so let's move on, because we want to get to the principles, because I'm kind of hanging in there and I'm kind of getting choked up about it. So because that's like a huge topic that I don't even want to get into. I just wanted to just give a little flavor of it, to touch into it, because obviously it happened all over the, every country has its story of how the light was destroyed and suppressed. So, okay, and now it's coming back. And yeah. I'm going to drink now, holding the microphone far away. And that it's no coincidence that Disney's just little things coming in, that Disney's sign is the castle of Neuschwanstein. Yeah, or in the image of that castle. Okay. So I was in the city. Well, first I was in the room, and then I kind of flowed into the city somehow, and then I started to notice. Okay, it's getting too dark. It's getting too dark. I want to go back home, and I want to go back home. And then, there was the U-Bahn, so there was the underground, the underground, but it was too convoluted and too dark, and I didn't want to, wait for the train to come and take the underground and another and because it seemed that home was kind of far away. I couldn't walk, and and then I was on a big open space, and I just started floating. So this is also a principle that stands for something, that is a representation of something, that when we fly and when we float in our dreams. So I will explain it all. So I started to float, and again, as it is 99.9% of the time, I'm the only one. So I was a little bit, and I saw how there were some people who were sitting on, there were like these electrical lines, like crows sitting on these lines, and that was also out of the norm. Like my floating was out of the norm, but I was like wondering, because I was hoping no one would see me. I was wondering, okay, what are they? How are they going to react? Can they see me float? Oh, it's so nice that I can float, but it wasn't easy. It was a little bit. It was going slow, but still, it was okay. I was able to float, and I didn't see that I was catching any attraction, and okay, but then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, two guys came, And they, even though they could not float or fly, they were also, they had kind of freakish, out of the norm ability to climb. And so they could like climb up really fast the side of buildings and jump and stuff like that really far, that a normal body couldn't do. And they were obviously they were after me. They wanted to catch me. They wanted to like bring me down, yeah, devour me, because I was yes, I had that ability to float. And the ability to float and the ability to fly only comes with this lucidity. It comes with when there is enough space within you to not be like a slave in the dream, to not be like completely like asleep and identified in the dream. With that comes the ability to float. It's like a lightness, but it wasn't that light, and it didn't go that fast because, first of all, because okay, so here's the thing. If we, to the degree that we are identified in the dream, and that also means we believe in the, if we believe in the realm of the dream, that it has power on us. So for example, we believe in gravity, that we can't fly, then we won't be able to fly. And if we never had the experience of flying or of floating, then it's like, well, we can't do it. It has to do with how locked in the paradigm, the bandwidth of frequency, and its belief systems, and its the laws that it represents, that the laws that are held all within the mind. They're all held within the mind and in the collective mind. So to the degree that we understand, it's like understand, believe, but also we feel like we are subject to it. Exactly, we are subject to it. So there is then not that that space between us and the realm, you know, of the dream or the realm of the waking world, so that we feel subject to it. And then it has an effect on us. So then all that is heavy, all that is dark will weigh us down. Yeah. And I knew that. I knew that, but I couldn't, you know, I couldn't completely overcome it. I couldn't completely overcome also what I felt then, a fear of having, you know, I don't want them to catch me. I don't want to, you know, who knows what they're going to do to me. You know, I don't want that. So like there's a fear of flight, you know, I got to get away. But if that fear would have been 100%, they would have had me like that. Yeah. Because it's an expression of my fear and of what I'm afraid of. And then I am completely subject to the laws of that realm. But I was able to, even though when they showed up, my floating abilities got worse, but I was able to then jump and float onto a car. So I grabbed onto a car. I was on the top of it, and I said, "Drive, drive!" And it was the only car of all the cars that was red, and it was this the duck that we call the duck car, you know, which is an old car that has a sliding roof top. So I could look from up, and I said, "Drive, drive! Don't be afraid. Just keep driving." And I didn't know if they were, you know, they were on my tail. And so also the car, it wasn't like the people seemed to be like scared, oh my God, what's happening? And they stopped driving the car. So it wasn't going very fast, but it still was going, and it kept going. Again, everything an expression of the emotional, the emotional realm. The more fear there is, the more it is not flowing, and the more it goes into a fearful scenario, and the opposite of that is freedom. Everything flows free. Like lucidity is completely free, and that is where the will is free, and where that free will of which to me is the divine will that comes through you then unobstructedly. That is your instrument, how it refractalizes the light, and the light geometry, then what kind of story, what wants to be experienced and created through your mind body soul complex specifically, can then flow freely and be experienced, and obviously, that is when you are free of all those, of any kind of distortions and compressions and inversions in your DNA and in your mind-body complex. Then it is free. Then the will is free to come through, which then will always be something, even though very, very specific, but it will always be something fun and beautiful and joyful and healing and, all of that coming from the light. So then they finally, they were driving, and it seemed like, and I didn't look back. I didn't give them any more attention, and we seemed to have lost them. So the moment that I noticed that, I'm like, oh God, cool, good. I think I lost them, I was able then to enjoy sitting on the roof, and we were driving through this interesting city, which was this mixture of old, more farmers' buildings like this, with the Fachwerk, we call it, so with the wood and the white, and then the Tartarian buildings, a mixture of that, and it was very interesting, but also beautiful. And I saw that even though we were on the streets, highway, and full with cars, it's like full with cars, there was a tree growing there, so in some still everywhere where there were little nooks and crannies, there were trees, and that was because there was a relief, so my fear was relief, because I was like, oh, good, it worked, I lost them. Then I said, I thanked them, all of a sudden we were out of the car, and I looked at them, and I thanked them, and they said to me, we are part of the movement. I had no idea what that meant, and I was like, okay, and they were just about to get ready to go into some auditorium with a bunch of other people. I didn't know what that meant. So anyways, it felt a little bit like, okay, they were also more on the light side. They were doing their thing, but also it had something to do with the light. And then, so I walked out, but I was still in the middle of this. It was still in the middle of the city, far from home. And I still wanted to get home. And I was starting to get really tired too. And I knew I wasn't going to go back into the underground. I wasn't going to go, and then, and I felt like a flycatcher, that as soon as I would go there, I would have I would have these darker beings. They looked normal, they looked like normal people, but they would be coming after me again. So, and also the knowing that was also a reflection in the dream, like I can't go in there and then have my mind again be drawn into the dark. No, that was it. And in that moment, yes, I can't go back in there, get home that way, and then have my mind be drawn back into that darkness. And then what came to me was be subject to the black magic. And I had this topic the other day, because what happened on the earth, it was shown to me, is that there was a lot of magic. And this is a topic I'm not going to get into here, but it will come through more. What that means, the light magic, you know, it is a realm. It's basically a light realm. Okay, the little bit I'm going to share a little bit here. So it is the light realm, you know, that is the realm of the unicorns and of the fairies and gnomes. Okay, this is also the spirit, what we call spirit realm or nature spirits, and it's a realm that is truly magical. That's what I would also call magic. But it's also the nature spirit realm, and all the ceremonies that were held in from the natives all across the globe, all across the earth, were always to hold these realms in connection to these realms. You know, it was to hold relation to all my relations to these realms. We have always had these interfacing and interactions with them, and there was a time when they were so real, you know, we could all still see each other. And the ceremonies were always about holding the balance between the realms and within the realms. Always the balance between, you know, the four directions, the four faces of God. See the four faces of God on all the old temples. Yeah, and then what came in with the darkness is that the ceremonies and all the cultures that were doing ceremonies, these cultures were destroyed, taken over. They were not allowed to do the ceremonies. Religion came in and like put themselves on top, and then what came was a ritual. You know, rituals were happening, and that was actually dark magic. And then also, because the goodness in the hearts of the people wouldn't allow that, it had to be turned around so that what was light ceremonial was made, was told to be, you know, the wicked, and you know, all that, and instead that which was like supposedly the good thing, and was exactly a ritual, was an inverted ritual to densify and bring in the darkness. Okay, I'm not going to go in, because I could explain it in all these details and how it is, but I'm not going to go into that in this. It will be just too long. And then I thought, oh, okay. And then I thought, so I just need to believe in white magic. If there's black magic, there's also white magic, and I just have to. So I'm just going to ask. I'm just going to ask for white magic to come through me, something like that. White magic to come through me, and I would just have to do white magic. I didn't exactly know what that was, or, you know, it was just a thought that came through, and in that moment, I look up ahead. You know, I'm just about to walk up stairs, and there's what appeared was a huge white horse that had a old-fashioned style saddle, and on the horse was sitting again an actor who represented something, an actor, and someone I wasn't sure about, you know, so that's why I wasn't sure about it for the first second. Is this the real thing, or is it a disguise? Is it, you know, the wolf in sheepskin, you know? And he was dressed in this costume that we know here in the culture around where I live as the carnival costume of a prince, and it has a specific costume. So but the horse was so huge, and he appeared, and he looked at me, and he smiled at me, and he said, "Come, come," you know, like this, and so there was just two things, like, okay, can I trust him? Because he had represented, when I saw him in the movie that I was watching, someone who was good, but there was also something about him that was sneaky, and where he was addicted and, you know, unconscious and acting that out. So basically, yeah, no, I'm not going to get into that. So, well, okay, an older man, this is also a topic, you know, an older man, way older than me, who was interested in my like sexuality, let's just say, yeah. So that was, and this is a theme also, you know, in that has shown itself in the waking world. Exactly. So it shows up in the dream, but I wasn't like 100% sure. So there was a little bit of hesitation to be skeptical, but then I realized the horse was this was, I mean, this was magical. Where did he show up from? And the horse is so big, it's not a normal horse. So this is not within the realm of the paradigm, within the framework of the dream. This was beyond the framework of the dream. Yeah, so it fit that it was coming from white magic. This was like a higher representation of, you know, life coming through. And so he said, come, and he was going to take me home. And so he got off the horse, and he waited politely, and I was able to float myself on the back of the horse, and the horse was so big and so strong, so I didn't have to feel bad about sitting on the horse and putting my weight on the horse. And yeah, and then he stepped on, and then I knew, oh, he's okay, I can trust him. And then I woke up. So, okay. Oh, let's do this again. What does this also all mean for, why is this a value to not only to recount this dream for myself? It's always a value to recount your dreams, but why am I also sharing this? Why is this valuable? You see, it's not cut and dry mathematical information. This is a transmission, and it is okay. Bring the magic into this world, it has to do also with bringing the dream life, the awareness that we have in the dream life, and it is a different, these are different waves, these are different brain waves, and it's a different dimension that we're in when we are experiencing ourselves in a dream. And to bring that dimension in to the waking world, we are actually bridging, we are actually creating like tunnels, so where we are connecting these worlds, and thereby also bringing through, because the waking world is subject exactly to the same principles as the dream world, except it has a different framework. It has a different mind waves, brain waves, and frequency, and so a completely different paradigm. And what usually happens is that it's very difficult to remember our dreams, let alone bring that essence with us, you know, almost like bring some of the fairy dust with us into this world, so that we can remember the magic. Yes, so that we can okay, because what is magic? Like, I'm not talking about the light magic, because the black magic is just inverting the light magic. It's pulling that into, it's like pulling it down, pulling it into the dark. It's using the same principles, but in the inverted ways. This is also why all this knowledge has been, it's like cement, it's like everything has been done in our, you know, in these, I don't know for how long, but specifically in the last 100 years or 200 years, everything has been done to close, you know, to close our minds and to close the earths and to close the portals and to have control over that, so that it's shut out, so that our connection, okay, our connection to the spirit realm, that what we call the spirit realm, and the higher dimensions, obviously, is shut out. And so that there is no more respect, even though the Wechselwirkung, so that feedback loop, that principle still exists. But if we do not know that it's there, we do not care about what effect it has on this world. So that yes, so that destruction will happen more and more. Yes, and everything put into place in our society, it has come to a absolute maximum. As we are now, as it's now, the tables are turning, as it's now turning over. And I was told yesterday, or you know, what they told me is because, okay, so it's both. It's like the new, excuse me, we are being born into a higher dimension. So that's the ascension, is a birth. But before the birth, there is a death. You know, we first have to die. And it never happens linear, everything linear, linear, linear. No, it always happens, you know, it's, I'm going to say, well, obviously there's no linear time because everything flows like the torus. So if you look at the torus, it's kind of like a spiral, but it never comes back to the same place. But what that means is that, you know, we always come back to pick up what's left in the dark. We're always coming back to our aspects of ourselves that are still running the denser currents, and they are then also a match, and within the paradigm, and what is the frequency that is like the radio signal, that the radio bandwidth that they are broadcasting in and receiving in, because we broadcast what we receive. You know, we broadcast the symphony that we are that is activated here, that we are, so what we are also letting in, and then how we transform it, and then we broadcast it. So if you are a receiver and a broadcaster, when there is no consciousness of the signals that we receive, so that means we are not conscious creators, yes? Then it's like we're asleep, and then what we receive, we broadcast. It just goes through us. And that is when we become like we don't have a free will, and it's like we become just a slave to the system of whatever is being broadcasted to us. And we have come into this system where everything, and it seems so natural to us, because when we're born into it, and that is what is also how it is portrayed, or that is how the narrative is. Well, this is the best we could come up with, you know, and also the idea is, well, and this is also an idea that you will find in many, many movies that they keep shoving down our throats, I want to say. You know, they keep reinforcing this idea that being a human on the earth, we are hurting the earth. That's just how it is, you know, there's no other way. And, you know, we had pollution and destruction. Well, we have to live, you know, we have to take lives in order to live. We have to destroy in order to live. The human is a parasite on earth, and, you know, it's not like that at all. And that's just what they want us to believe. So, the way that our architecture is, the way that, you know, what they put in the water, and how the power sources, how power is generated, and all of these things, it's all, you know, the electromagnetic smog and so forth. Everything is put into place so that, you know, these, our, so that the light will be densified, so that our connection to our soul is as much as possible compromised. You know, everything under the sun has been thrown at us, and so that we would forget who we are, and that we would feel lost and alone and not connected to our souls, not connected to our creative powers, and so that we don't have a free will anymore, and we are so influenced by then those forces, because they do not have power. These are forces that need out, that live from others' power, that is, however, densified, because they are so densified that they cannot receive any power. They have fallen so deep. Yes, exactly. They are so cut off that they can only live off of the outside, off of others. Yeah. And so they need the others to come to their level and not know about it, you know. And so that is why this is so important, to allow this through again. And it comes through the soul, and the soul is the, you know, we are closer to our souls when we sleep. And the floating, yeah, I already said that, I think, is lucidity. So that is awareness of yourself, that is beyond the human identity, the identity of the body. Yeah. And the moment that I took into consideration, well, I mean, if they're doing black magic, you know, and then all we need to do is white magic. And I was also like, all I need to do again is believe in white magic, and it showed up, and that was then it showed, that was totally magical. That was so I believed in the light, and it showed up as this, yeah. Yes, okay, so the other thing that wants to, that also came through, is the difference between power and force, and that is exactly what is coming now. So the force is losing its power, and we are becoming empowered by the inner realms. That which comes through our souls from the inside is becoming stronger, and that's why it's so important to be aware of your dreams. And you start with whatever it is, you know, and in the beginning it may be, you know, it may be for us, we may experience it as absolutely gibberish, you know, like it's nothing. But it is that, as Dan Winter calls it, it is a successful successful dying is bringing memory through death. And it's the same, you know, and that's what the Tibetans do, like in their culture. They prepare for death their whole life. And that is in order to bring memory through death, because of all, you know, all the systems that have been put into place when we have been reincarnating, when we have been coming back, because there was a quarantine on the earth, and there was a long time where when you would die, you would stay here and you would come back. And the thing is that every time you came back in the reincarnation, you know, and that's reincarnation cycles, is when ascension isn't available. And that was the experiment on earth, you know, that was this platform, because otherwise this is what it takes to become a hero. You know, you will not become a hero when you live in fairyland your whole life, you know, and you're only surrounded by light. Yeah, your muscles are never being challenged. There is no challenge. There is no, you know, that is the Neil Donald Walsh in his story, The Little Soul, is you cannot experience yourself if you are a candle flame within the sun. There is no experience, and there is also no creation of different fractals, different facets, not even just different, but also, you know, way more complex. You know, there's no growth. Yes. And because we desire this, we desire to experience ourselves in all these different ways, and to always to, you know, the fullest potential. And once a full potential in a certain realm is then experienced, is created, and space for that created, and then fully inhabited and experienced, then we can move on to the next. You know, there's infinite possibilities of how we can experience ourselves in the different bodies, in the different realms, and the different planets, and the different dimensions, and all the different angles of perspectives of story, you know, and all that wants to be experienced. And how does joy and you know, joy, incredible experiences of love and bliss and ecstasy and beauty, and even you know, it doesn't have to always be big and be subtle, you know, but how can we even grasp the full beauty of a butterfly, the full beauty of it, not with our minds, you know? It's like we have to become one with it, but not just it. And how can we become one with life to a degree that we can behold, that we have the space to behold the full wonder of it? Exactly. We need to make space. And we need to grow, and the only way to do that is by going into the you know, to go down in the inversion, and then come back home. Yes. So now I wanted to talk about portals, because this taking memory through death is the same as the practice is memorizing our dreams. It's the same thing, because we're in different brain waves. We're in different dimensions, and it's the challenge is to be able to reproduce and to remember that whole feeling while you're in this, you know, back in the waking state. And usually what happens is the moment we wake up, and especially once we put our feet on the ground, and once we start in our lives here, we take back on all this paradigm, you know, that all that DNA gets activated. And not only that, but because our, as I said, you know, all the architecture, the power system, what we take into our bodies, then the noise, you know, all the machines outside, the traffic, everything, that frequency, you know, the leaf blowers and the chainsaws and everything that is, you know, it's the machine and loudness, and then the electrosmog and the airplanes, the chemtrails, you know, the poisons in the air, the poisons in the food. So okay, so all of that is defractalizing, because you know that when I've shared the pictures from and the principles from the salt, the difference between table salt and for example Himalayan crystal salt, which is the highest form of salt because it is the ancient oceans that have experienced so much pressure that they have the highest crystalline form, and it is the highest crystalline form, which is the highest fractality, that can hold the most information and can hold on to it. And that is also space in the nervous system. The nervous system looks exactly like the salt crystals, and it's these little branches. And the moment we get up, the fractality, because our space has been created to destroy fractality. And so then it's like harder and harder to relate back into the dream. And so it is about, you know, Dan Winter says, get fractal or you're toast, you know, get fractal or you're toast in relation to our times that we're in now, and the high, because the solar frequency, okay. The solar not just the solar, the time quality and also the solar frequencies that are coming to Earth. So you see, this is speeding up. You know, it's the oscillation rate of the particle making up the matter of our time-space continuum, of our time-space, vantage point, of this waking life vantage point all over the Earth that we are in. And then there's the collective, the earth held, the collective held within the noosphere, within the mind of humanity, the human minds, and of course there's the noosphere of the animal kingdom, and also then the individual mind. So destroying fractality, how do we rescue? How do we stay fractal? Oh yes, the particles are speeding up because of all this high frequency energy coming in, not just through our sun, but it's also coming from other suns in the galaxy, and it's coming toward us. That is the energy that is coming to Earth from the outside, and that is being received through the crown chakra, and we are then metabolizing it through our systems and giving it to Earth through our root and feet. And then we get the feedback from Earth through the feet and the root chakra, and it's basically, you know, that's what our Taurus does. And then we have the frequencies coming from the inner sun through our hearts that we metabolize, and we give it back to, that's this where we are broadcasters, that we broadcast back to the sun. And as Ismael Perez said, and this totally, you know, when he said that, it's like, yeah, of course, you know, that's also what I get, is that this, you know, we have been getting these, and this is even in our official science, is that these sun winds are coming, except that they turn it into something to be afraid of. Of course, you know, because again, you can only keep control over the realm when you are an inverted, you know, when it's an inverted system, and you are coming from an inverted mindset, by holding the realm in fear, you know, by exactly, so that they don't become the conscious creators that they potentially are. What was I saying? Because there's so much coming through. Yes, that the solar winds are scientifically, yes, so it is the time that these winds, and there's going to be winds or waves. I always see it as waves, and like all rhythms and songs and waves, they have waves within waves, and then there's always this because this has to do with cosmic cycles as well. And then there's, because it's the waves, they play on each other and they become a momentum, you know, so they get a momentum going, and because it is speeding up the spin, the oscillation rate of our matter, that at some point what happens is there is this point of where a threshold is, you know, and then the biggest wave comes, and the biggest last wave opens up this portal, and that is the birth into the next higher dimension. And that is that climax point, that biggest wave that lifts us up, and that then what happens is we come into a higher order, which is a different paradigm, which is similar to different paradigm of dream. You know, now we have the experience of being in different paradigms when we dream at night and when we are in the waking life. Both is life, both we are living and experiencing, but different dimensions. We are in different dimensions. So what Ishmael says is that biggest wave, you know, that is called the solar flash, that is going to happen, just kind of like, no, it's not like that, but what comes to mind is, like, everybody also talks about the financial fiat system crash is imminent, and it's inevitable and evidently has to happen, you know, from the way it's set up. But how it happens and when it happens, that is, you know, that nobody knows. But he says that it will be triggered, or it will first come when we are ready, when humanity is ready for it, you know, and at the right time, because this is not mechanical. This is all conscious. This is all conscious life, you know, conscious beings. But interesting is that it is us. It is us. And he says it is 10%. It is when 10% of humanity reaches a certain openness of the heart structure. And so this is also a certain coherency combined with velocity, coherent velocity of the spin rate of our torus. And our, you know, and that, for example, Christ consciousness has a very, very particular spin rate and ratio between the top and the bottom spin. And my, you know, what I'm just getting right in this moment, I've never put exactly this together, but Christ consciousness is also what we call unity consciousness. It is that and unity consciousness is, I explain it that it is, or the way I get it, and I would explain it is that it is the awareness of unity with your soul, so with your spirit. It doesn't take that, you know, you have to be like Buddha, like total enlightenment, sitting there, I am all with one things. It doesn't have to be that way. It is already enough when there is no more division, no more sense of separation from your soul. Then you are a lucid dreamer, because then you have no more fear, because the soul has no fear. And it is only that fear. See, now this, when truth comes through, everything relaxes down into the belly. Yeah, because it resonates with itself. It knows the truth. So that also means that the waves, the solar waves, not just from our sun, can be picked up when there is that readiness within one mind, body, soul complex. Then they can be picked up, and unobstructedly they will be further on broadcast into the system, because we are receivers and senders. And it is that one person that is waking up to their soul, that is taking itself also out of being a slave to the dream and a slave into the matrix, the inverted matrix. That is, you know, the first waves, or the first ones that are that have the maturity already within their, you know, because there's so many different souls that are incarnated, so many, you know, different where they come from, and their age and their experience and all of this. And the first ones, they have the capacity, you know, to to run the Christ consciousness currents. They again affect, and not just at that point, you know, when they're like fully embodied, but the whole time already, that it is such a mature soul and such an old soul, and it has such a, you know, big aura, and that also means a big torus field, that its torus field has an influence on 6,000 others. This information I got from, I mean, I always knew, you know, intuitively, and I was shown this, and I was told this by my higher self also, and I see the proof of it also in myself when I go outside. Like the birds, they love to fly. You know, when you're positive, when you're running high frequency, when you're running light, and you walk in nature, they fly out of their way to come and fly through your aura. And in other ways that I've been shown this and told this intuitively. But the 6,000, that number I'm getting from actually Inner Earth, from the books Krista Jasinski, who is the wife of Alf Jasinski, who was going into Inner Earth for 10 years before he died, and he wrote it all down meticulously in his diary, and she published is publishing his diaries and relaying the information from Inner Earth. So this information is from Inner Earth about the 6,000. So it's always nice to have to be able to also see the structure in a practical way, just to get an idea. Yeah. And So Ishmael says when there's 10% of us, of humanity, that has a certain, and he didn't say it, you know, Christ consciousness embodied, but at a certain momentum of heart structure openness, and that also means lucidity, and that means you made space, you know, because the full identity with the egoic mind, with the, you know, you're like totally asleep to your soul, to your true self, totally, you know, abiding in then the controlling system, and within that dream that is becoming, and you know, becoming, I mean, for many of us it already is or has been. But it is true that if left unchecked, if there were no ascension, where would this go, right? You know, we don't even want to, we can already tell where it would go. It would go further down. So there's that point, it's almost like a point of no return, you know, when the waves, they reach a certain momentum, and that is going to then, you know, there's always that feedback between us and this and our sun. That's the crown chakra, and or it moves through the crown chakra, and when that information and that wave and that code comes into the sun, it will, you know, according to Ishmael, that is what will then trigger that final tidal wave, that biggest wave that will carry us, you know, what it will do is over a threshold, and it will be a paradigm shift. It will bring forth the paradigm shift. And what he also says is that it will, so the nefarious technology that is still in place will, through that, will then not work anymore. Just like also technically our technology, like phones and cameras, even when they're mechanical cameras, even the old ones, you know, the reflex cameras, they will not work in inner earth. Again, that's information from Jasinski. Yeah. And will not work anymore. Portals. I wanted to talk about portals, exactly, because this is just what I was shown from my higher self the other day. So there are two kinds of yes, okay, all right, more is coming together. I got you. So this is the other thing, you know, that I live in a place. And I'm all gonna tie it all together. So I live in a place that's very dense. That is very dense, close to, you know, a big city that was in the Second World War. Complete, you know, beautiful. Used to be a beautiful old city, and when you look at after the Second World War, it was just a desert of rumble. There was nothing left. Nothing left except for they left the cathedral. That was it, and this area is very, very, very dense. Anyways, Germany is very dense, and then on top of it, you know, this area, and then also the town. I live in a relatively, you know, mid-sized. What is it? 60,000? I don't know. I don't even know. Small town, mid-sized town. Anyways. Very dense, very loud, very dirty, very low consciousness, all of this. Since I moved here, I have noticed, and this is very rare, I have noticed every year 2 to 3 to 4 times a year, actually more than that, I've seen rainbows, you know. So, and especially it was in the moment when I would, when some kind, anyway, I would speak of something, or I would think of something, or I would feel something. The other day it was that I received a beautiful message that really touched my heart, and all of a sudden, before it was a thick layer of clouds, completely clouded blanket, and all of a sudden it broke open and it started raining at the same time, and there was a rainbow. It's just like that, and it's like, and every time that happened, it's like grace, you know. It's that's magical to me. That is magical to me, and then on the other side, what I've also noticed, which is it's extraordinary. This is something that is out of the norm for this area to have rainbows. And the other thing that I've also noticed throughout the years that I've lived here is also every time, not every time, but very often, specifically when this, not every time, but when I am sitting and meditating, or I'm channeling, black helicopters come. I see black helicopters. And this morning, after I had the dream and I was lying in my bed and I was getting these downloads, and I get up again, I see a black helicopter. And one time it was so, I was sitting in meditation or channeling or something, and it was like nonstop, and it was so loud, and I'm like, what is it? Because I already heard the helicopter, and I was like, yeah, okay, another helicopter again. But then I had to go outside on the balcony because it was so uncanny that it was literally, it was for I don't know how many minutes. It was hovering quite deep right over my roof. And I was looking up there, and I was just thinking, what the heck? What is going on? This is surreal, you know. This is surreal, and but it makes me, to me, that is magic. I mean, even though the black helicopters, and now we'll talk about the portals, is you know, it's the dark side, but it's what it reflects back to me is a confirmation, you know, that this is real. This is real. So. So I get excited. That's the thing. When I see them, I'm like, it's fun. Yeah, that's what it is to me. I'm going to move a little bit more into the sun. Yeah. So the portals, what they showed to me yesterday is that you know, there's also ships. I've seen ships in the sky, and I've also seen, you know, cloaked in the lenticular cloud cloaks. But also one time I saw right here in front of my window, right up there, a plasma ship. And, you know, a phenomenon I had never seen before, right in front of my eyes. It's this flimmering of these iridescent, you know, like these colors of the white pearl, you know, when light gets reflected in a white pearl, that pearly color. And then, however, it was moving in waves, in waves like this. And so it was a phenomenon that you could not explain with normal, you know, this, and I had never seen it before, but then I did see it later in other people photographing it. And it was the same phenomenon, and they also said these are light ships, you know. So the light ships, and also these are some of them, they're underwater, they're in the sea. They are, so there are a lot of them, obviously there are a lot of them around, but they have to stay within their realm. Because the moment they come on the radar of the 3D, and it shows them themselves. So the moment like this magic happens, you know, like the higher frequential light comes into the physicality, the military dark forces, they have a way of picking up on that. And they, you know, when an area gets too highly fractalized, which means now it can bring memory through death, or it can bring light from the higher dimension into the lower dimension, which means also a portal. And obviously there are portals also in the inverted way, and that's what they've been using, you know, also to bring, you know, to bring more density in. Yeah, then the military comes, and with this, that's one thing that these helicopters do, is to defractalize and to, you know, close those portals again. And what I was getting is that what the light ships can do is they will open portals, and they can open portals, but it's a different technology than what the military uses, because the military has the ability to open portals and close portals, but they use force. So this technology is by force, and it's a very, very different technology from the light ships. The light ships are also ships that they are like kind of organic, and they, not that they're beings in that sense, but I don't know how it works, but it's said that they are made from the DNA of the crew, specifically the captain, and so that it has some kind of a sentience, and that's why they don't need buttons or anything. They can just think, and it's like an extension of their own body, but it doesn't need an actual plug in or umbilical cord. It's kind of like Tsahelu in Avatar, where they merge the bodies through the hair, and they merge the you know, they have these connective organic anatomy, you know, where the neurological systems, they come together, and then the dragon flies, you know, so Jake, or whoever is flying the dragon, he only has to think of where he wants to go, and that's where the dragon will go. This is just I've never put those two together. This is just an image that just came to me, and it's similar, except without the actual link up with the light ships. And when they create portals, it is done organically. It is done through consciousness and through love, and it's done with the consciousness of Earth. So it's never done through force. It is always in working together with Earth. So it is always done like through the heart structure, exactly through the heart structure. You know, like we are one organism. We're playing together in the light, and for healing, and for well-being, and all of this, and for awakening. And we are coming in the purpose of, you know, this is our intention, and we would like to, can you open a portal there, for example? You know, we would like to let this person through, or in each way, you know, we would like to make a bridge. We would like to come together, and also, you know, you could like walk through the portal in one part of the Earth and come out on a completely other part of the Earth, or you could open up a portal to also a different planet, and then the Earth's intelligence will open up a portal. And you can even say, you know, you can say just for a second or something like that. And it's not the same technology. And this reminds me also of the difference that Jason Estes has brought into awareness more for me, which also totally makes sense. His quantum wellness bed, which is a healing device that works on the quantum level with the quantum field, which is completely different to what I've also have been hearing about a lot and how that works, which is absolutely fascinating and interesting, are the med beds and how they work. You know, so there's different technology depending on the consciousness out of which it was born out of. You know, how much are you still in division, or how much are you already in unity consciousness and running the Christ consciousness currents through your system. That depends on then also will be reflected in the technology that is created out of that kind of a conscious mindset, you know, or consciousness in the mindset. And so the difference is that the med beds, they still use force, even though they can do incredible things, you know, and incredible healing, but they still use the technology of force. Oh, I'm gonna have to move. Well, I'm gonna want to move a little bit so that I'm just gonna move forward. And the differences to the quantum wellness bed and that kind of, any kind of technology like that, is it never uses force. It only offers the body resources, and the body can take it or leave it. It is like the bodies, it is never infringing on the sovereign will of the body, yes, of the body's innate consciousness. And that is an intelligence, obviously, but it's also a conscious awareness. So it's, you know, sometimes we say, well, you have to force some people into, no, actually the saying is, you can't force them into their own happiness, you know. It's kind of like sometimes we want to do that. We want to like force people to wake up into a way so that they can come out of their suffering, you know, and that doesn't work. Yeah. That's always going to backfire in a way, because it overrides the free will. Yes, even though, you know, if we're coming with something that is good for them or healing for them, that is also, you know, the law why the galactics that are brothers and sisters that are here, and that are also a lot of them, which I will go into in a different video, I will explain that. A lot of them are our aspects of our other aspects of our soul, you know, because we are multidimensional souls with the clusters and group consciousness, you know, that is one coming together in one consciousness on the soul level, and they are another aspect of our higher dimensional soul. So that's really exciting. Okay, so is there anything else? The importance of, okay, so white magic was the coherence and bringing, it was all the ceremonies, bringing balance between the realms and within the realms. And basically that is when we say something is magical, is when balance occurs and heart coherence occurs between then the or within the living system that we are a part of, and then we experience ourselves as one with the system. For example, when I see in an uncanny way, not just the angel, you know, the angel numbers in the clock, because I don't look at the clock very often, and so when just the eyes go there, or I look at the clock and again angel numbers, what are the odds? But also the what are they called? License plate numbers, you know, when I'm driving and I'm not looking for it, but then my eyes goes to, out of nowhere, just my eyes goes to a license plate, and they're everywhere. So why in that moment does my eyes go to a license plate, and it's always a number that has a meaning to me, like 144 or 777 or something like that, you know? And that is then that feedback loop. That is then that, also what I call magic, is that sense of being one with the universe, and you're getting the feedback of your own soul speaking to you, or your own soul complex, or the divine coming through, and consciousness coming through, divine consciousness speaking to you, saying, I see you, I am here, I see you, remember. And that is the lucid dreamer. You know, the lucid dreamer knows himself to be one with the dream. And that is a feeling of complete fearlessness and a completely vast, open nervous system. And that's why also we can only hold this this state of being for as long as our nervous system will allow it to. And that's why we have to, in order to become more and more, bring that into be able to embody more, you know, not just understand it with our minds, although that is the beginning, that can be the beginning. That is also what is being cultivated with the cultivation of soul, and with the cultivation of giving value to your dreams, giving value to that time that you sleep, and to that other realm. And that is giving value to your soul when you give value to your dreams. And then they will become more and more and more open up to you, and you understand or understand, and you intuit, and you understand your own language. You begin to understand your own language, and it is that is wonder and magical. Yes. Okay. Is there anything else that wanted to be said? Okay, I'm going to leave it at that.